Good.
Hello, everybody. I am your host, your Heavenly Father. This is the live stream. That is Maria Bartz-Monomara, and we're going to take a look at her show, because this is where all the batshit crazy happens. The Republicans right now are trying to overturn American democracy. We'll take a look at that. We'll do some fact-checking. If you'd like to join in the chat, please do. Whatever platform you're using, be it Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, it all ends up over there. So go ahead and chat on whatever platform you're doing there. If you'd like to support this sort of fact-checking on a regular basis, go to kevinlyfather.com. That's where you can become a patron. I'm supposed to take off my glasses when I do the call to action. Go to kevinlyfather.com or just send me money right here. PayPal.me/KevinlyDad, Venmo, Kevinlyfather. For some reason, this is in the way of that, but we'll get rid of that. Let's see if it goes away in a second. Who cares? Anyway, you can read it. PayPal.me/KevinlyDad. You can send me money there. But even better, go to KevinlyFather.com. Let's get going. I got a ton of work to do. There's a ton of fact-checking to do. And this is all happening on the 6th in Washington, D.C. And the Republicans are under complete delusion that there's something they can do to put Trump into office. There's nothing. It's done. It's over. It was over on the 8th of December when the electors were certified by the different state legislatures. It's all just nonsense. It's all just nonsense. I have a lot of hair going on, Stephanie B. You're absolutely right. Let's get into it. Let's watch some of the crazy on the morning shows today.
It's Sunday morning. Welcome to Sunday Morning Futures. Happy New Year, everyone. I'm Maria Bartiromo. Today, the kickoff to the most consequential week in Washington for years to come for America.
No, there's no consequences here. This is just the election count. There will be objections. So what's going to happen? Do you guys want to go into what's going to happen? I can explain how the whole process works. She's so pretty. If you want me to, I'll just wait a second here to see if somebody says, yeah, we want to tell us what's going to happen here. I've done some deep diving into this, and it's all wackiness. The fact that anybody with reading comprehension skills has said that Trump can still win this thing. It's insanity. Well, I'm waiting there. Hey, Rich Cruz. Hey, Stephanie. Hey, Ruth Ann. Hey, Deidre. Hey, Dr. Howard. Hey, David. Congratulations on being first. I don't even know if David's in here. Oh, wow. That was the lamest bell ever. It's New Year's. So here's what's going to happen. And this has happened before, by the way. This is... hi, Marcy. Hey, producer Joanna. We've done this before. In 1969, there was an objection to an elector. In 2005, there was an objection to the way that Ohio ran its election. And in those cases, somebody objected. Okay, we're going to stop reading the states. Okay, so what happens is both chambers of Congress, the House and the Senate, they come together, they gather, they start opening the envelopes. The vice president, or whoever's the president of the Senate at the time, in this case it'll be the vice president, has everybody open the envelopes of the states in alphabetical order. They read, oh, this many electors vote for this person. Okay, moving on. Next state. When they get to a certain state, in this case, the first state will be Arizona, that will be objected to by both in writing. There's no debate. In writing by a congressperson and a senator, and right now there's about 11 or 12 Republican senators that'll come on board, and a bunch of crazy idiots in the House that are Republican. They'll object, and then the two chambers have to convene in their separate chambers. So you've got the House, you've got the Senate. They will vote. Very important, it is not one vote per state. Every individual congressperson gets a vote. We know this because it's happened before. Actually, I actually have that. I'll show you. I can show you guys 2005. This is the way it's going to work. The Democrats, first off, the senators, the Republican senators, don't even have enough senators to uphold an objection. There will be debate. And by that, what's going to happen is the House is going to have, we're going to have about 2 hours of debate. We can have up to 2 hours. Are there people that want to speak for objecting? Are there people that want to speak against objecting? And everybody gets 5 minutes, and you can yield your time. In the Senate, it's a little bit different. The leader of the minority, the leader of majority, they both get an hour. And they can just divvy that out to whomever they choose with a limit of 5 minutes per. And there's some question as to yielding in that case, but it's never been brought up before, so we'll see what happens when it happens. Let me go in and show you what happened in 2005. I'll pull that up. Give me just a minute here. This is what we do, folks. We chat truth to power, and I am about to show you historically from C-SPAN. This is what happened. This is the vote in the House.
We are out of time. Looks like the House is coming back in. Thank you.
Hold on. I'm going to put that on the correct screen for you so you guys can see that too, because I like to share. This is the House right here. This is the end of the vote in the House.
We are out of time. Looks like the House is coming back in. Thank you.
Thank you, Billy. Member wish to change their vote.
So nobody wished to change their vote. You can see this is on agreeing to the objection. In other words, somebody objected and said, hey, Ohio isn't doing this right. Barbara Boxer of the Senate for the Democrats said, yeah, I agree. So it went to the House. The House voted, and most of the House didn't even vote. You see, there's hardly anybody in there. They vote for a couple of hours. There was a little bit of argument. So then there was just, okay, well, let's vote. A bunch of people didn't vote. You can't see it on your screen there. Let me get, I'm not even going to get rid of me. Trust me. You can see the no votes, NV. So the total votes, Republicans, no, 178. Democrats, 88. Independents, 1. 267. And as you know, there's many more than 267 voting members. 132 Congress people decided they weren't even going to bother. They weren't even going to vote on this. They just didn't want it on record. That's how it works. It's not one vote per state. That's the 12th Amendment. That's a completely different thing. And that's only if somebody doesn't get not to 270, but to the majority of the votes cast by the electors. If a state is disqualified, if the electors are thrown out, or if a single elector is thrown out, precedent in this country, which has happened 4 times, is that then the majority becomes a smaller number needed. It's never actually been an argument. It's when electors have been thrown out or whatever's happened, when electors voted for somebody else, when electors didn't show up to vote, that's fine. It's the majority of the votes cast, not 270. 270 is just a number if all the electors are counted. And they will be in this case, because this will go to the House after the arguments, and the House will take a vote, and the Democrats will win. Because elections have consequences, and Trump's Republican Party lost the Senate. Hopefully. That's 2 days from now. They lost the House. And that's that. That's it. It's over. It's already over. But we're going through the motions here. Let's get rid of this screen. We'll go right back to Maria. So that's how it's going to work. Are there any questions? Yeah, this is just grandstanding. This is just a desperate party trying to hold on to Trump's base that will, mark my words on this, a lot of them will disappear after this. I'm going to eat my, I made myself a ham and egg sandwich. You can't see. There you go. There's the bottom of it right there. So I'm going to become a shark so nobody has to watch me eat this monstrosity. It's actually quite delicious. I got some eggs. I got some ham on. I got some cheddar cheese, sharp cheddar. Mild cheddar is a waste of time. And I'm going to eat that while we watch this. So you guys won't have to listen to it. Dr. Howard says, why is my eyes blue? Why is your eyes blue? There's a Chrissy McCullough joke there about the Space Shuttle Challenger, and it's one of the worst jokes ever told, so I'm not going to tell it. But if anyone has heard it before, it's pretty funny. It's really bad, but it's pretty funny. Let me do this. I'm going to become Baby Shark. Do, Baby Shark. Do. Magically, the power of Snapchat compels me. Come on. Do it. There we go. All right, so you guys don't have to watch me eat like this. Maria? Right to Ted Cruz.
In rejecting Joe Biden this morning ahead of the final judgment day this Wednesday on the presidential election of 2020 in the joint session of Congress. Breaking news this morning. Senator Ted Cruz is leading a group of 11 senators.
We got to go back.
A civil war. Defending the GOP majority this morning. Senator.
Okay, she's about to say something about a civil war here, so let's figure out what this is.
David Perdue on the state of play, along with Georgia State Representative Vernon Jones this morning, plus incoming freshman Georgia Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene on why she says she's ready for a civil war in rejecting Joe Biden this week.
Holy crap, she's a QAnoner, by the way, so that might be interesting.
All that right here, right now, as we look ahead on Sunday Morning Futures. And Republican resistance is growing this morning ahead of the final judgment day this Wednesday on the presidential election of 2020.
There's no judgment.
In the joint session of Congress. Breaking news this morning. Senator Ted Cruz is leading a group of 11 senators who will object unless a commission is named to investigate allegations of fraud. Senator Ted Cruz joins me right now. Senator, great to have you this morning. Happy New Year to you. Why are you doing this, and how will this play out?
Well, good morning, Maria. Happy New Year as well. Thanks for having me. Look, we're at an extraordinary time in our country's history. We went into this election with the country deeply divided, deeply polarized, and we've seen in the last 2 months unprecedented allegations of voter fraud.
Yeah, allegations. We haven't seen any actual voter fraud. Allegations.
And that's produced a deep, deep distrust of our democratic process across the country. I think we in Congress have an obligation to do something about that. We have an obligation to protect.
Flip the democracy? Is that what the obligation is? That
the integrity of the democratic system. And so this past week, I spent writing out a position and assembling a group that ultimately of 11 senators that we put out yesterday that we will together object to certification in order to force the appointment of an emergency electoral commission to perform an emergency audit of the election results to assess these claims of frauds. I think we can do that. We can do it promptly. We can do it in 10 days before the inauguration. But I think we have an obligation to the voters, and we have an obligation to the Constitution to ensure that this election was lawful.
The Electoral Commission he's talking about, not a thing. See, in 1876, we had an election. Rutherford B. Hayes ended up winning it. And several states, at least 4, from the South, this is during Reconstruction after the Civil War, they sent multiple slates of electors. So you can only have one slate of electors, right? So, Congress, what do? Well, let's have this election commission. Well, that was really stupid. They worked it out, but they decided we need to not have this ever happen again. And so they created the Electoral Count Act, which has a very specific procedure that we just talked about of objections with a congressperson and a senator, and then debate, and then a vote, and we're all back together. That's what the Electoral Count Act is. He's suggesting that we do both. And that's not what legally is allowed to happen. So this is just bluster. Somebody once told me something about Ted Cruz. Who was it?
But I've met people that are much tougher than Ted Cruz. But I've never, ever met anybody that lied like him. This guy lies so much, right?
That's right. That's who it was. President-elect Donald Trump said that about him. Let's go on with Ted.
You mentioned the allegations of fraud, and in the press release announcing this commission that you'd like to see, you report on a Reuters Ipsos poll that says 39% of Americans believe the election was rigged. That belief held by Republicans 67%, Democrats 17%, and Independents 31%. But, Senator, we know that we heard from Bill Barr, and he said he didn't see fraud. We know that we heard from the states, and we also know that we heard from the Supreme Supreme Court, who did not hear the attacks and the cases that said there was fraud. How do you respond to that?
Well, each of those different players has a different role in our constitutional system. Bill Barr was speaking as to the evidence the Department of Justice saw. The Department of Justice wasn't administering any elections, did not have access to particularly widespread evidence on either side of the issue. As for the states, there are a lot of people in the states and state legislatures who've expressed deep, deep concern.
The Department of Justice has access to whatever evidence they need to have access to. That's how it works.
About the unlawful practices that we saw on Election Day, that we saw particularly cities controlled by Democratic politicians shutting down the vote, throwing out observers, disregarding the law. And finally, you mentioned the Supreme Court. Listen, I wish the Supreme Court had taken this case. There were two opportunities to take this case, one out of Pennsylvania, one out of Texas. In both instances, the lawyers asked me to argue those cases. And so with regard to the Texas case, President Trump called me and said, Ted, would you do the oral argument in this case?
It's all about Ted. So he called up the guy that he said he's never met anyone who lies like him and said, you need to speak before the Supreme Court, specifically because he's never met anyone who lies like him.
If the court takes it, I told the president, absolutely, I'd be happy to do it. I wish the court had taken one or both of those cases. I think the Supreme Court would be a better forum for resolving those issues. That obviously was the forum we resolved issues similarly in 2000 in Bush versus Gore. Unfortunately, the court declined to take those two cases, so we don't have the court stepping in to resolve it, and that's why I think Congress has a responsibility. We have an independent obligation to the Constitution. We have an independent obligation to the rule of law. And the question, look, we've got to vote on January 6th on certification, and every member of Congress faces a dilemma. Frankly, two pretty lousy choices.
They don't have to vote on January 6th on certification. That's not how the process works at all. They have to vote on whether or not to uphold an objection. The votes have already been certified in the states.
One, we can vote to certify, not consider any objections. If we do that, that will be heard by a lot of Americans as saying we don't think voter fraud is a real concern. We don't think these claims should be investigated thoroughly. I know that's not what most of us believe. But secondly, and I think all of us rightly don't want to be in a position where we're suggesting setting aside the results of an election just because the candidate that we supported didn't happen to prevail. That's not a principled constitutional position. That's why in assembling this group of 11 senators, I was looking for a third option, an option that was really moored in the law. And so I'll tell you what I did, Marie. I went back and looked at the historical precedents. I think the strongest precedent is the presidential election of 1876, Hayes versus Tilden. In that election, there were serious allegations of fraud in three different states, in Florida, in Louisiana, and in South Carolina. And what did Congress do in 1876? Now, they didn't throw up their hands and say, well, gosh, we've got allegations of fraud, but we can't do anything about it. We've just got to certify. No, they didn't do that.
Yeah.
What they did instead is they appointed a commission. It was called an Electoral Commission. Consisted of 5 House members, 5 senators, 5 Supreme Court justices. They considered evidence, they examined the ballots, and they made a determination based upon what the disputed ballots and what the outcome should be. What I'm arguing for is Congress ought to do the same thing. We ought to have a fair inquiry, a fair audit into these results, and we ought to resolve these claims, not just dismiss them out of hand.
Okay, nobody is. What he's talking about is what is going to happen. This is 1876. And then, it's actually 1877 because it happened in January. 10 years later, there was the Electoral Count Act so that they wouldn't have to have this electoral commission with 5 senators and 5 congresspeople and 5 Supreme. No, everybody in Congress has an opportunity to object, and everybody in Congress has an opportunity to vote on the objection. We don't need the Electoral Commission. That's why we have the laws that we have now, so that we don't have to have the Electoral Commission. By the way, this is the definition of conflation. That's what conflation is. Everyone's like, oh, conflation is, you're just conflating it. No, this is conflation.
kind of pressure are you facing right now? We know that Mitch McConnell does not want any objection. We also know that Liz Cheney is telling her colleagues, why are we doing this? This is a waste of time. Don't do it. We shouldn't be putting ourselves out there. We also heard from Senator Klobuchar. She said, get a grip. Lisa Murkowski said we should not be doing this. And you know that you will require both the House and the Senate to reject the electors from a number of states in order to be so successful. That's likely not happening, that you're going to win in both the House and the Senate. And what if a commission does find fraud? What happens then?
Mm-hmm. Well, listen, I think everyone needs to calm.
There will be no commission delaying the count of the votes. It's not legal. By the way, Ted Cruz, I don't know if you guys caught it, but he just said that this is not so that they can overturn the results of the election. He just admitted that Biden will be president.
Down. I think we need to tone down the rhetoric. This is already a volatile situation. It's like a tinderbox.
This is a tinderbox, and I'm going to throw some gasoline right on that fire.
And throwing lit matches into it. And so I think the kind of hyperbole we're seeing, the kind of angry language, yesterday when I released my statement with 10 other senators, I had
we've never seen anything like this hyperbole.
Multiple Democrats urging that I should be arrested and tried for the crimes of sedition and treason. Now, look, that's not helpful. At a time when this country, when we're pitted against each other, just relax and let's do our jobs. We have a responsibility to follow the law. And let me say, by the way, to those members who may not have a concern about this election, whether you're a Democrat,
which is why we're not going to follow the law,
or even some Republicans, the poll numbers you covered at the top of the show, I think ought to be deeply troubling to everyone. 39% of Americans think, quote, the election was rigged. And that includes 17% of Democrats, 31% of independents. That's bad for our democracy. That's bad for the legitimacy of any subsequent presidential elections. And so dismissing these claims, I think, does real violence to our democratic system. We ought to have a serious, fair process and tribunal to consider these claims, consider them quickly, consider them expeditiously. We can do it in 10 days before the inauguration. I think that would take major steps towards reestablishing trust in our democratic process. And I believe that should be a bipartisan objective. We may be too divided today for that to happen, but Democrats should be interested in Americans having confidence in our electoral system just as much as Republicans should be.
Yeah. Senator, you are...
But that doesn't do anything. What he's talking about, he never answered the question. What happens if they find fraud? We need to have more trust in the system, which is why we're going to have an investigation on allegations that have been investigated multiple times by multiple courts and by multiple states and found to have no credibility.
An expert on the Constitution. You are a constitutionalist. You wrote an entire book about it. What does the Constitution tell us about who decides who the president should be? What if the commission that you are explaining does form, comes back with actual evidence of fraud? Then what happens?
I can answer that. Nothing. Nothing happens.
Well, then the results have to be set aside. If there's evidence of fraud and it's substantial.
No, they don't have to be set aside. There's no constitutional remedy after Biden is elected. Now, once Biden is in office, you could impeach him, but you can't because you lost the election.
And significant enough to affect the results in a particular state, then those election results would have to be set aside. And the states would then have to determine, all right, we have a valid claim here. The evidence supports it. We need to conduct elections consistent with the law. The Constitution gives the responsibility of counting the ballots to the Vice President of the United States, Vice President Mike Pence, and to both houses of Congress. And the framers of the Constitution, when they assigned a task to the Congress, They knew what they were doing. You know, there's some folks who are saying this is purely a ministerial act. They just have to, you know, count them and walk out and you have no judgment whatsoever. Well, that frankly doesn't make any sense. Why would the framers give to Congress something that could be given to a clerk? The reason they gave it to Congress is they understood there are difficult determinations about what counts as a valid vote. You know, following the 1876 election, 10 years later, in 1887, Congress passed a statute, the statute that we're operating under. It's called the Electoral Count Act. And what it provides is the mechanism for raising an objection. And it says you can raise an objection if the votes were not regularly made by lawfully certified electors. And so in this instance, if you have states that are violating the law, that are committing fraud, those votes are not being regularly made, and those are not lawfully certified electors. And so that Congress's responsibility is to address these claims. I understand that for some of my colleagues, that's a hard choice. It's not a responsibility they welcome. Whether we welcome it or not, the Constitution gives us that responsibility, and we need to step forward and defend the rule of law and protect the integrity of our elections.
And every single one of the states, all 50 of them, followed their laws in the certification of the electors. All of them. All of them. There are no questions here. And in order to overturn the results of the election, you would have to have at least 3 states that did not follow their laws. But they've all been followed. And they've been certified by the secretaries of states and by the governors of those states. The governors are the ones responsible for certification. The legislatures have the power to write the laws on how the election is conducted. The state Supreme Court can then take a look at those and decide whether they're constitutional or unconstitutional and provide interpretation. Then the governors certify. And those electors are the only electors on December 8th of 2020 that are valid electors. We're done.
Real quick as we wrap up, Senator, we are 2 days away from the Georgia Senate races. Do you believe...
regular votes are, the electors are votes that are done within the manner prescribed by law or the Constitution. In other words, these are electors and they have decided they are going to vote for this person so that when they're appointed, for example, a Biden elector, when they're appointed, they are not going to be faithless, which means they're going to vote for the person they said they were for whom they were going to vote. So if a Biden, or for example, last time, several electors decided that they weren't going to vote for Trump, and several electors decided that they weren't going to vote for Hillary when it came right down to it. Those are faithless electors, and those can be challenged, objected to in Congress. Nobody did. Yes, several Democrats did. I should show you guys this because this is interesting. Several Democrats did object to those, to the faithless electors, and to other that we don't even know. Actually, we don't know exactly what they were objecting to. They were objecting to irregularities, to certification, There were several Democrats who did that. But the job of the vice president or the president of the Senate, whoever's the president of the Senate, doesn't have to be the vice president at that time. During the counting, his job is to find out if this is procedurally done properly. It has to be submitted in writing, and there has to be a senator and a congressperson, and there is no room for questions or debate. Let me pull up our friend, President-elect Biden here. He ran the last one in 2017, because he was still vice president, which meant that he was president of the Senate. So he conducted the last electoral count, and this is how he handled things with his own party. These are all Democrats that are objecting. This is how a president do.
No debate. There's no debate.
6 hours in Georgia.
There's no debate.
The malfunction of 87 voting machines.
Debate is not in order. Debate is not in order. The gentlewoman will suspend.
Violations of the Voting Rights Act
debate.
and
There's
confirmed
no
hacking
debate
by
in the joint session. There is no debate. There's no debate. There's no debate.
Because of the Russian intrusion into the
There is no debate in the joint session. There is no debate. Debate is prohibited.
I do not wish to debate. I wish to ask, is there one United States senator who will join me in this letter of
There is no
rejection?
debate. There is no debate. The gentlewoman will suspend. Well, it is over.
Okay, so that's the job of the president of the Senate, who at that time was Vice President Joe Biden. His job is to just get the hearings done. The count itself should take somewhere around 25 minutes. But the Republicans this year are going to draw it out. Because after every single objection they'll probably do 7 states, could be 5, could be 3. There has to be 2 hours of debate. And so and now within the separate chambers, they can decide, should we pull the vote now? If I'm the Democrats, which I'm not, I just say, okay, who wants to object to this? Okay, get your 5 minutes, and then after an hour, motion to move to a vote. You have your vote, and you're done. Now, that being said, the Republicans could delay the vote. They could just not vote for the next hour, and we have to wait the whole 2 hours. In the Senate, same thing. Mitch gets an hour that he can distribute to the senators. Who's the other guy? Cuomo. Not Cuomo. Come on. I can see him in my head. Minority Leader in the House. What's his name? Chuck Schumer. Thank you. Chuck Schumer gets an hour. He can divvy that out to the different senators. But the senators really have nothing to say here. Hey, we had an election. It's done. Joe Biden is president-elect. Okay, let's have a vote. But Mitch McConnell calls the vote. So, anyway. It's per objection, yeah. So it's going to be 2 hours per state. And if we're lucky, after the first state that they object to, which is likely Arizona, you have the vote, the Democrats vote in unison, it's done. They won't even get enough senators to vote for this. They might get 15 to 20 senators to vote for the objection, but some senators may decide they're just not going to vote. I don't know. But it's the majority of the quorum at the time, and everyone will be there unless somebody is quarantined because of COVID.
That if the Democrats win those 2 Senate races and the Democrats take the majority in the Senate, that you will have an even larger group of senators come Wednesday, the next day, to object the results of the 2020 election. A word on Tuesday's Georgia Senate races.
Yeah, so I was in Georgia yesterday campaigning with Kelly Left.
Here's what they're not telling you about this. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if they win both the Senate races, because both chambers have to approve the objections. And the House is already decided the Democrats won. Elections have consequences. This is the consequence right here.
I'm actually assuming
senators come Wednesday, the next day, to object the results of the 2020 election. A word on Tuesday's Georgia Senate races.
Yeah, so I was in Georgia yesterday campaigning with Kelly Loeffler. I'm actually, as soon as we finish, jumping on a plane, flying back to Georgia to campaign today again. I think these 2 Georgia Senate races on January 5th are, without exaggeration, the most important Senate races of our entire lifetime. If we see a Democratic majority, a Chuck Schumer majority, I think they will do generational damage. It will empower the extreme, angry leftist voices in the Democratic Party. And so I would say to folks at home, if you are in Georgia, please, please, please come out and bring your friends and your family and your neighbors, because we're seeing massive Democratic turnout and the consequences. Yeah. I think the people of Georgia want to see a reasonable check and balance. They don't want to see the extreme, the Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warrens and AOCs having no restraints on them whatsoever. Georgia will decide that, and I'll tell you what. I think we're going to win both races in Georgia, but it's going to depend on turnout on Election Day.
All right, Senator, we'll be watching, and of course, the very next day, the joint session of Congress. As important, we will be there. Thank you so much, Senator. We will watch the developments. Thanks for being here. Senator Ted Cruz.
Okay,
in Texas. Coming up, lawyers by trade and now sitting congressman leading the debate in the House of Representatives.
Oh, God. Jim Jordan and Mo Brooks. So Mo Brooks is one of the guys who, he's just not tethered in reality. Jim Jordan knows what reality is and decides he's going to manipulate it. But Mo Brooks is just a moron. He's a Louis Gohmert of Congress. Oh, wait.
Welcome back. History being made.
By the way, she's still working out of her home studio or somewhere. You can hear the electronic hum in the background. She's not in the actual studio. So Miss Maria, oh, this whole COVID thing is overhyped. She's not in the studio.
This week in Washington, when Republican lawmakers from both chambers of Congress plan to reject the certification of Joe Biden's victory. While House Democrats may have already tried this in 2005 and 2017, no senator has backed their objection since the election of 1876. Today, you've got 12 senators backing them. Congressman Jim Jordan and Mo Brooks are here. They are spearheading the challenge in the House.
What did she just say?
May have already tried this in 2005. Welcome back. History being made this week in Washington when Republican lawmakers from both chambers of Congress plan to reject the certification of Joe Biden's victory. While House Democrats may have already tried this in 2005 and 2017, no senator has backed their objection since the election of 1876. Today, you've got 12 senators backing them. Congressman.
No, in 2005, Barbara Boxer backed it. So I don't. That's complete nonsense. I mean, I just showed you the video from 2005 where they had to vote on it because of Barbara Boxer. Let's see. I probably have even more than that, so we can actually see. I should have the actual objections where they talk about Barbara Boxer. Let's see what I have here. Let's see what this is right here.
Separately and decide upon the vote of the state of Ohio.
Okay, so that's after the objection. Give me a second here. Let's see what this is. Here we go. I don't know what this is.
That their vote matters.
Okay, this is Barbara
January
Boxer.
6th
Here we go.
in 2005. Watch.
So for those of you, for those of you out there watching that, oh, this is a liberal, leftist, radical Andrew Warnock. No, this is Fox and Friends. I'm going to let them introduce this, so you know this is not just me making it up and doctoring the videotape.
Took that stand in January 6th in 2005. Watch.
Every citizen of this country who is registered to vote should be guaranteed that their vote matters, that their vote is counted. I am joining with Congresswoman Stephanie Tubbs Jones to cast the light of truth on a flawed system, which must be fixed now.
I raised these objections because...
Okay, so there's the senator. Okay, there's a senator, according to Fox and Friends, objecting to it. So as far as 1876, no.
Jim Jordan and Mo Brooks are here. They are spearheading the challenge in the House, accompanied by the senators this time.
Unless I misunderstood what she was trying to say there. If I did, guys, let me know in the chat.
They join us right now. Congressman, it's great to see you both.
Stephanie, I don't know. Kathleen is saying that Georgia does have early mail-in voting counting. Yes, they do have early mail-in voting. I don't know if they're allowed to count those ballots. In the general election, they were not allowed to count the ballots until the start of Election Day. So I don't know if they've pre-counted any of those ballots. I seriously doubt they have, because for them to have different rules for a special election than they do for the general, it would be very, very strange. And I think that's what you were asking. If I'm contradicting what you were, then I apologize. And Kathleen, I think what Kathleen is trying to say is that they do have early mail-in vote, but I don't know. And I could be wrong. Kathleen, if you're absolutely sure that they're allowed to count those mail-in votes before Election Day, then let me know. It doesn't really make that much of a difference one or another, but we don't want to end up in a situation where it's going on for days. Although at that point, they can't seat the two senators from whichever side they come from. It's just terrible English, sorry. But it doesn't matter. None of it matters.
Thank you so much for joining us. Jim Jordan, I'd like to kick it off with you. Will you walk us through what will take place on Wednesday morning? Vice President Mike Pence will do a roll call. Can you briefly tell us how this will play out Wednesday? And then I would like to hear your argument of the constitutional principle.
Well, sure. Vice President Pence will oversee the proceedings. There'll be an objection raised by a House member. We have, I think, probably over 100 House members who want to object to the various states, the 6 states in question, and then we have 11 senators. So if you have one from each, there'll be the objection will be raised as he calls each state in alphabetical order. If, let's say, we get to Georgia and there's an objection from a House member and a senator, then each body will retire to their respective chamber. They'll have a 2-hour debate. There'll be a vote. They'll come back. If there's a vote to object and not accept those electors from that respective state, then they won't be accepted. And then you move to the next state. And if you go through that process and neither candidate has 270 electoral votes, then the Constitution is clear. There's a vote in the House of Representatives done by delegation. So that process is very straightforward, but there's a 2-hour debate on each state if there's an objection raised by both a House member and a senator.
He's fairly accurate with that, except that once a state is disqualified, you don't need to get to 270 anymore. You need to get to a majority of the electors that are actually valid. And again, none of this matters, because none of the electors are going to be objected to and succeed. The objections are not going to succeed. I think you guys know what I'm trying to say here. But this is, again, we've done this before in history. At least 4 times, electors have been dismissed, and then the majority needed goes 1 or 2 lower, depending on how many electors get dismissed.
Tell me what you're planning to do, Congressman.
Well, as Senator Cruz said, it's about the Constitution. Article 1, Section 4 is very clear. It says the time, manner, and place for holding elections is determined in each state by the legislature thereof. Take Pennsylvania, for example. Pennsylvania's state law says Election Day ends at 8 o'clock on Election Day. The Supreme Court in Pennsylvania says, nope, we're going to extend it 3 days till 5 o'clock on Friday. State law in Pennsylvania says for every absentee mail-in ballot, there has to be a signature verification.
You can throw out all of those ballots, and Biden still wins Pennsylvania. So it's moot, is what the courts would call it.
The Secretary of State in Pennsylvania says, nope, we're not going to do that. We're not going to have she just unilaterally went around the law for 2.6 million mail-in ballots. The state law in Pennsylvania is clear. It says that mail-in ballots cannot be processed until Election Day, but some counties in Pennsylvania allowed ballots to be cured before Election Day. Now, Maria, take a guess which counties allowed that. Democrat counties with Democrat county commissioners and clerks.
All of the counties were allowed to cure their ballots, every single one of them. It's just the Republican counties didn't bother.
Allowed that to happen. Republican counties did it.
Yeah, this has been argued in court and rejected every time, every single time.
Counties in Pennsylvania followed the law. So when the time, place, and manner is not adhered to and not that the legislature set, that is a direct violation of the Constitution, and that disenfranchises the votes in the district I get the privilege of representing in the 4th District of Ohio. That disenfranchises the votes that the people Mo represents in Alabama, and countless number of people around the country. And understand this finally. It wasn't us who said it. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, the late justice, said this: the ultimate date of significance is January 6th. This is how the process works. The ultimate arbiter here, the ultimate check and balance, is the United States Congress. And when something is done in an unconstitutional fashion, which happened in several of these states, we have a duty to step forward and have this debate and have this vote on the 6th of January.
And Congressman Mel Brooks, you are a litigator by practice. You know about the burden of proof. You say you've seen evidence that there was fraud.
Oh, no question. The evidence is overwhelming and compelling. In my judgment, if you were to get a non-biased jury that listened to the evidence.
Congressman Mel Brooks, you are a litigator by practice. You know about the burden of proof. You say you've seen evidence that there was fraud.
Oh, no question. The evidence is overwhelming and compelling. In my judgment, if you were to get a non-biased jury that listened to the evidence, they would find 99% of the time that there was massive voter fraud and election theft in the November 3rd election. Now, having said...
most of the courts that would be involved with this do not have juries. The Supreme Court does not have a jury. Appellate courts do not have a jury. Hearings do not have a jury. That's complete nonsense. To put a jury in, it would have to be anyway.
That, let me emphasize that there are a lot of different things to cover, and of course we have limited amount of time in which to do so in this show. I'm not sure how much detail you want me to get into, but I'm more than happy to address it within the time allotted.
Yeah, I want you to address the fraud that you see.
Yeah, I wanted to address one thing here. Let me pull it over here so you guys can see it too. It's very tiny on your screens. You can't really see it, but you're going to have to trust me on this one. These are times that the majority has been lessened because of some electors not voting or what have you. So that happened in, I'll tell you the exact words, 1873. Let's see. 1865, 1809, 1813, and 1817. All of those times had the majority requirement lessened because certain electors did not vote. So yeah, well, it's not 270. 270 is not a hard and fast number. That number has always changed throughout our history, specifically early in the history.
Before we take a break, and then we'll go into that deeper, how many states are you going to object to?
Well, I intend to object to 6, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Arizona, and Nevada.
So that's 12 hours of debate. 12 hours, people. And after the first 3 sessions where it just gets voted down, I mean, really, at that point, won't America be yelling at their television screens? I can answer that. No, they won't, because no one's going to be watching this, except you people who care.
And why is that? Why those 6?
Well, there are different reasons for each of them, but for example, as Congressman Jim Jordan just pointed out, some of them quite clearly violated Article 1, Section 4 of the United States Constitution, the election clause, that empowers the United States Congress paramount authority and then legislatures secondary authority to set the times, places, and manner of elections. Pennsylvania, Michigan, Georgia, Wisconsin all clearly violated Article 1, Section 4, so we can either ratify that with our votes, that illegal conduct, or we can oppose it. I stand for opposing the violation of the United States Constitution, federal statutes, and state statutes.
Okay.
For opposing the state statutes? What did he just say?
Clearly violated Article 1, Section 4, so we can either ratify that with our votes, that illegal conduct, or we can oppose it. I stand for opposing the violation of the United States Constitution, federal statutes, and state statutes.
Okay.
Okay, let's take a short break and then get deeper into this evidence that you will present.
We're not going to take a break.
And talk
We're
about
coming
on
right
Wednesday
back.
and what this looks. I want to do that right now. I know you both are facing real challenge and pressure from establishment players, from the leadership in the Senate. You say you've seen evidence of fraud. Lay it out for us, Congressman.
Well, it's difficult to do in such a short period of time, but I'll give it a shot. Let's talk about Nevada, just for example. Joe Biden purportedly prevailed by 33,000 plus or minus votes. Yet there have been over 130,000 votes identified that were illegal. Non-citizens were voting.
No, there hasn't. That was tried in Clark County and other areas in Nevada and at the federal level as well, pertaining to Nevada. And every time, all of those 130,000 votes or whatever, they were looked at and summarily dismissed by multiple judges because of a lack of credible and relevant evidence. This has been heard. All I'm seeing now on the right wing is like, oh, if we get a chance to, so we can have the evidence heard. It's been heard over and over again. In Clark County, the Trump campaign submitted 20 binders full of evidence. What evidence? We don't know. Because we haven't been shown the 20 binders. It's, oh, the public needs to know. If only the public knew. We've never seen those 20 binders full of evidence. But a judge saw those 20 binders of evidence and went through point by point, dismissing all of them. So I should correct myself. We know some of what's in those 20 binders. And the judge, yeah, you can't just say that 32,000 people voted in 2 states and then not give a single name. Well, who are those people? Oh, we know it for a fact. Okay, so then you must know that they voted in one state and in this state. Give us one name. Nope. Not a single name in there.
Voting, roughly 4,000. Individuals, roughly 40,000, voted twice, not once, but twice in this election. Of course,
just what I was talking about. But they can't name anybody.
That's illegal. You've got people who purported to live at an address that doesn't exist. People who purported to live at an address that is a business.
No evidence.
Business address where, of course, nobody lives. You've got dead people.
No list. No list of dead people that they confirm are dead.
People voting, 130,000 added all up in the state of Nevada, and I'm quite confident that overwhelmingly they voted for Joe Biden. You remove those from the equation, and Donald Trump carried Nevada. You can go to Georgia, where you have videotape of poll workers ordering the media and poll watchers to leave. And they use as an excuse some kind of pipe leak, okay? And they announce that they're not going to vote anymore.
No, they didn't use an excuse as a pipe leak there. In that particular case, the video that everyone has seen in Fulton County, they thought they were done for the night. They thought they were supposed to come back in the morning. Then they got a phone call saying, no, you guys got to keep going here. We've all been in work situations where that has happened, right? Especially in like day labor jobs. These people do this job for 1, 2, or 3 days every 2 to 4 years. For many of those people, it's the first time they've ever done this. They've had very limited training because there's no budget for stuff like that. And then, oh, we're done? What time do we wrap up? Around 10 o'clock. Okay, we'll wrap it up, everybody. Ring, ring. Hey, what are you guys doing? You got to keep going. Okay. It's not fraud. Doesn't mean the election has to be overturned.
They're not going to count any more votes. Quite clearly a lie. There was no pipe leak of the kind.
Canadian bacon is just back bacon.
Express, there was a leak at a toilet 12 hours earlier that was fixed 12 hours earlier, so that couldn't have been the justification, yet that was the excuse used. So why are these people lying? Well, right after they lie and tell people they're going to stop counting votes, right after the poll watchers and the media leave, they pull out 4 suitcases full of ballots and start doing what they said they weren't going to do, and that's continue to count votes. We don't know where those ballots came from, but that sure is.
We know exactly where those ballots came from. That has been fact-checked and been inspected by the state inspectors in Georgia. That's their job, and they did it.
Is bad looking on the security cameras that they probably did not know about when they pull out suitcases that are hidden under a table and start counting them. Then you've got...
They weren't hidden under a table. They were placed under the table with their security tabs on. When they decided, we're supposed to stop counting at 10, that's the procedure. That's exactly what should happen.
The massive...
It's on tape, by the way. The pulling out is on tape. The putting in is on tape. There's no trap door underneath State Farm Arena that they somehow managed to open up and insert all these ballots. This is the narrative on the right. Oh, they stopped counting so they could figure out how many votes they needed, and then they produced those fake votes, and then magically they ended up under this table. Here's the problem. There's no reason to stop counting. That whole narrative falls apart as soon as you... Well, why would you have to stop counting? Why wouldn't you just produce a bunch of ballots? Like, why bother?
A violation of Article 1, Section 4, where mail-in balloting is not allowed. Congress, pursuant to its powers in Article 1, Section 4, established a day for the election. That's a 24-hour window.
Yes.
We set exceptions for certain absentee...
I looked at this earlier, by the way. There's no 24-hour window. It just says that electors have to be appointed on a certain date. It doesn't say on a certain date. I correct myself. It says by a certain day. Constitution doesn't actually say that. It just says Congress can determine that. And then way back in the 1700s, Congress determined that there should be a 32-day window for those electors to be appointed, which has always been interpreted as a 32-day window for elections. Then later they specified the first Tuesday after the first Monday, which is very specific, in November. That's why we have elections on the Tuesday, there has to be a Monday first, and then the very next Tuesday, the next day, that's the day of the election, which the earliest it can be is the 2nd of November. But they've never said that the election has to be that day. They said the appointment of the electors has to happen that day. So his whole mail-in ballots are illegal, which we've done since the Civil War. Mail-in ballots are illegal because they say a day in the Constitution. No, they don't. That's not in there.
ballot purposes. People are overseas, people are disabled, what have you. But this mail-out ballot scheme that is in direct...
Oh, okay, so the Constitution says it can't happen, except in certain cases.
Violation.
The Constitution doesn't say anything about Americans mailing in from overseas. This...
Of Article 1, Section 4, that is in direct violation of the statutes of the
Yeah, you can't have an election on November 1st.
United States Congress. Those are illegal votes. And by way of example, in Georgia, if you exclude illegal votes, only count lawful votes cast by eligible American citizens. David Perdue won on November 3rd. He should not be in a runoff. And the Senate ought to act accordingly under Article 1, Section 5 of the Constitution.
Well, Congressman Jordan, this is just what you said in terms of the mail-in ballots and the Constitution violated. Why wasn't any of this investigated, Congressman? I mean, look, you should have had the FBI and the DOJ talking about what Mo Brooks just talked about.
Look, Maria, we put out a report back in September, and we called this. The Oversight Committee and Republicans on the Judiciary Committee put out this report, and we said Democrats were going to do this. In fact, we called this last summer. We said on election night, President Trump's going to be winning, but Democrats want the chaos and confusion created around mail-in voting. We had a staff member, Maria, who got 4 ballots sent to her residence here in D.C. Her ballot and 4 others of people who no longer live there. So they wanted this chaos.
Well, then I certainly hope she didn't use those other 3 ballots, because that would be voter fraud.
And confusion, because they were going to win the election after the election, and that's what they did with this crazy mail.
Once the votes were counted, yeah, we all knew this was coming. We all knew that this would happen. There's no magical voter dumps. This is how it works.
Mail-in ballot scheme that they undertook. And in several of the states, as we pointed out, as Senator Cruz has pointed out, as Representative Brooks has pointed out, several of these states did it in an unconstitutional fashion. That is the heart of our argument. So let's have the debate on Wednesday. Let's show the American people what took place. They haven't had that. There have been no hearings. We've called for hearings and investigations.
There's been multiple hearings. They've gone to court over this. This has been seen, not heard, by the Supreme Court, because the Supreme Court doesn't actually hear new arguments. The arguments are submitted, and then the lawyers talk about it. There's no witnesses in Supreme Court. You take the evidence that's been submitted, and they decide whether or not they do review that evidence and decide whether or not they should hear the case. But they've seen it. They've seen this evidence, including President Trump submitting in evidence. See if I have it. It doesn't even matter. Just trust me on this. President Trump submitted his first example of why there had to have been voter fraud is because it's impossible, because nobody has ever won Ohio and Florida and lost the election. That was the very first thing he said. It's just not true. That's not true at all. Nixon won Ohio and Florida and lost to JFK. That's his brief before the Supreme Court. And that's one of the reasons the Supreme Court said, this is complete lunacy, and rejected it.
Investigations in Congress. Jerry Nadler and Chairwoman Maloney won't hold them here in the United States House of Representatives. So we have to have this debate on the 6th of January, on this Wednesday, so the American people can see what was done in an unconstitutional fashion.
Can they come back to you and say, look, COVID...
See, yes. There is a procedure for doing this. Is it a waste of time? Yes, complete waste of time. Is it dangerous? Yes, because you will have Republicans arguing, debating for 5 minutes at a time that this happened and this happened and this. And in Congress, unfortunately, other Congress people can yield their time to Jim Jordan. So you're going to have Jim Jordan spewing this nonsense for up to an hour, 6 times. And nobody is going to be rebutting this argument except, I'm not going to be there. I don't know if any of the Congress people are as prepared as I am, or another fact checker might be, or as PolitiFact called me, one Twitter user, to refute these arguments. I hope so. But can you tell me a Democrat in the House that's really good with messaging? Adam Schiff, maybe? But he's not trusted by the right in any way, shape, or form. Hey, if anybody's listening, Congress, can you guys make me a congressman? Mike Pence can do that. Mike Pence can just declare me a congressman, and then I can go and I'll fly out there. I have to drive, though. I don't want to fly. With COVID and everything.
justified mail-in ballot.
Mike Pence could just name me president, and then all of this is solved, right? Middle ground, people.
That's why.
Oh, that's right. Katie Porter's there. That's very good, Marcy. Katie Porter's got to have her whiteboard. That's an excellent argument. I can't really think of anybody else now in the House. Nah, not really.
Counties upon counties were littered with ballots.
Maria, as the Attorney General said, the Constitution is not suspended during a crisis. You can still do it in a constitutional fashion. In fact, millions of Americans
There's nothing in the Constitution that says you can't send out ballots. Nothing.
did. They voted in a constitutional way. Millions of states didn't go around their election law, go around their the state.
Nevada passed new election law. That's how the law works. You can change it.
The legislature sets the time, place, and manner for elections in the respective states. Not the Supreme Court, not the Secretary of State, not the governor, not some.
And they did in Nevada.
County clerk, not Facebook, not Twitter, but the state legislature.
Hold on. Twitter doesn't set elections? Oh my God. This is breaking news, everybody. Did anybody know this? I assumed Twitter was in charge.
And when they violate that rule, that disenfranchises millions of.
Hold on. What if Twitter does it in a basement, Jim? What if they do it in a basement? What if it's a basement bunker? Then does it count?
Voters across this country. That is the heart of this issue, and three of these states in particular, Georgia, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, definitely had that problem, and the others did to some degree as well, on top of the fraud that Mr. Brooks has pointed out.
Mo Brooks, your final word here.
See, in the Senate, they're a little bit less delusional. They're saying there's allegations of fraud. But Jim and Mo, they're saying there's absolutely 100% get it in front of a jury fraud. There's not.
I mean, what is this going to look like if you're going to...
Jim Jordan is the worst, and here's why. Jim Jordan is actually smart. Gomer and Mo Brooks here, they're idiots. Jim Jordan knows what he's doing.
To object to 6 states, and then you've got a 2-hour debate. We're not going to learn the results here until, well, we're not going to learn on January 6th, that's for sure. This goes into January 7th. Tell me how this plays out, because you've got to get the majority in the House and Senate to go along where you are.
Well, how it plays out, quite frankly, is dependent upon the American people. This is an organic movement that has risen up from...
No. Danger, Will Robinson. No. This does not depend on the American people. The American people already made their decision here. Yesterday, he suggested revolution on the streets. Blood, violence. I'm not sure he didn't say blood, he said violence for sure. On the streets. I can play that for you too, but let's go back. This is sedition.
January 7th. Tell me how this plays out, because you've got to get the majority in the House and Senate to go along where you are.
Well, how it plays out, quite frankly, is dependent upon the American people. This is an organic movement that has risen up from angry American voters, 70+ million, who have been disenfranchised by voter fraud and election theft. To the extent they contact their senators and their congressmen and demand honest and accurate elections, then we're going to win this fight on January 6th. But if the American people do not rise up, if they don't contact...
Yeah, everybody, call your congressperson. Yeah, that's going to work.
Contact their senators, if they don't contact their congressmen demanding that their congressmen and senators do the right thing for our republic, well, then we're not going to win on January 6th. So I urge all Americans to participate in this fight.
I'm going to help you out here. You're not going to win either way. It's legally impossible.
On behalf of their country, on behalf of their republic, and of course, the election system that is the underpinning of any republic.
I know so far this has been a lonely place for you both. Thanks very much for your courage. Thanks for joining us this morning. Congressman Jim Jordan and Mo Brooks. We, of course.
All right, we got time. Let's see, it's 10:08. Yeah, we got time for a little bit more here. Let's see. Who are we going to listen to? Who's this? Okay. Yeah, no, we don't care about him right now. Actually, everybody should care about him, but that's not what we're talking about today. Let's go on. This will be Kelly Green. She is QAnon, so buckle up, friends.
The Georgia Senate runoffs is not even on the ballot. Failed gubernatorial candidate Stacey Abrams took credit for delivering Georgia for Joe Biden. Now she's boasting that she has registered nearly 3 million early voters for Tuesday's races. This as her sister, an Obama-appointed judge, has refused to recuse herself this week in a Georgia voter eligibility challenge, just days before the big election.
Yeah, come on, Stacey Abrams' sister. Come on. No. Should you have to recuse yourself? No, you shouldn't have to recuse yourself. You don't necessarily have a conflict of interest just because Stacey Abrams is your sister, considering that Stacey Abrams isn't even a candidate. But here's the thing. Come on! You should have recused yourself. It's ridiculous. Democrats don't understand optics.
Joining us right now are Vernon Jones. He is a Democrat Georgia State Representative, and freshman Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor.
And Democratic, but okay.
Green. Great to.
Oh my God, is she a man? Look at her. Look at her face.
Has refused to recuse herself this week in a Georgia voter eligibility challenge, just days before the big election. Joining us right now are Vernon Jones. He is a Democrat Georgia State Representative, and freshman Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. Great to have you both. Thank you so much.
But is this not a man's face? Is she trans? I don't know. Is that do we have a past history on her? But that looks like a man's face to me. Not that, I mean, fine, no problem whatsoever. But there's no way that she can't be. I mean, she just can't be and be Republican and QAnon. But wow, yeah.
So much for joining us, and I want to kick it off with Georgia. Vernon, can you walk us through what is taking place with Stacey Abrams?
Again, I don't care either way; it doesn't matter. But I've never seen her. I've seen her in photos before. I've never actually seen her speaking like this.
And her sister. This certainly looks like a conflict.
Well, you know, Stacey Abrams was involved with the previous administration, Obama and Biden, on getting her sister that judgeship. Now, here it comes full circle, where there's a case that was pending before her sister, where Stacey had a vested interest in her organization, and her sister ruled in their favor. Now, you know, there's something called discretion. That judge, her sister, is...
Okay, he's boring. Let's go to the other guy.
Green, that voters are saying looks bad and raises an eyebrow. And one of the reasons that you say you will contest the result of the 2020 presidential election during the joint session of Congress on Wednesday. Tell us what you're planning.
Absolutely. I've said...
Time for Truth says, I'm sorry, but I'll say it. I find transgenders unsettling. I mean, like, what do I care? What do I care if someone is transgender? I've known people who are transgender. I don't care. And I asked earlier, is she trans? I don't even know if that's the right way to say it anymore. Fine, be whatever you want to be. It doesn't affect me at all. Enjoy. I'm good with it. But let's not get angry at people if we're unfamiliar with what pronoun with which you want to be referred. That's fine. And I think that's why more people are unsettled with it. One of the reasons that people are unsettled with it. That's a completely different discussion as it is right now, and I'm going to get people yelling at me for it or whatever. But again, let's just not yell at each other. I don't care who marries whom. I don't care. Well, you got consenting adults. Do whatever you want. What does it matter to me? I'm always surprised by the number of people who are against big government, but then tell people who they can marry. It's just the disconnect there is just mind-boggling to me. Anyway, I don't care. And Dennis has a wonderful point there. All of these Republican Congress people and senators, they got elected in this fraudulent election. Why are they not disputing their own election? Why are they not refusing to be seated until we can have free and fair elections in the United States? That's the fundamental point.
From the beginning, I joined Mo Brooks in our objection to this stolen election. I believe.
Okay, trans female. If she's a trans female, whatever the correct terminology is right now, I could get Kevin Lee Daughter in here and she would tell me, because it changes on a daily basis and she has an alert on her phone. Producer Joanna says, I just want to say a big thank you to Kevin Lee Father for explaining this week's Republican Madness latest gambit to us, because I, for one, really appreciate it. Thank you. Oh, thank you, Producer Joanna. And I appreciate everybody out there watching and supporting. It bothers me because they are deceivers. No, I mean, you have to look at it from their point of view as well. And maybe they feel like they're deceiving everybody else by behaving one way or another. I mean, you're literally not in their shoes. And again, how does it affect me? It doesn't. I'm good with it. I know a couple of transgendered people who are some of my favorite people. I don't have a problem with it.
It's our duty as members of Congress to uphold the Constitution and defend the integrity of our elections, and I intend to do that. The people of this country, Americans, by the millions, 75 million people reelected.
Anyway, it's got nothing to do with gender orientation, etc. She's a crazy person. This is the QAnon person. And people, Americans, decided that she should go.
Stolen election. I believe it's our duty as members of Congress to uphold the Constitution and defend the integrity of our elections, and I intend to do that. The people of this country, Americans, by the millions, 75 million people, reelected Donald J. Trump on November 3rd.
They didn't. They lost because 81 million Americans voted for Biden.
And they are screaming from the rooftops that they know this.
Oh, is that what happened, Quake girl? That she had no opponent running against her? I should know that. I feel ashamed that I don't know that, if that's the case.
This election was stolen. We've got so many people that have signed affidavits at risk of perjury telling.
Affidavits are hearsay and nobody ever gets prosecuted for perjury on affidavits. Yes, there are exceptions, but for the most part, they're just not looked at as credible. And all of the affidavits doesn't really prove any voter fraud. I saw food trucks arriving, and there was no food.
About election fraud. We have all the situations in Georgia, such as Vernon just spoke about, and I thank him for speaking up and telling the truth and serving Georgians like he always does. But we have a true crisis, and this isn't about political parties. This isn't about Republican and Democrat. This is not about President Trump versus Joe Biden. This is about the truth and defending the people's vote, and it's appalling to me that our state leaders in Georgia are not listening to the people and doing what they're asking is a complete audit of every single machine and all of the ballots. They need to be listening to the people because it's the taxpayers that pay for the ballots, pay for the machine.
They've counted the ballots 3 times, 4 times in some areas. They just went through a signature verification, which is not a counting of the ballots. Remember, your signature goes on the outside of the envelope or the security envelope, and then the ballot is removed. That's because we live in America and you can't have your vote traced. So they did a signature review, an audit of 15,000 signatures in Cobb County in Georgia, and they found that two signatures were considered questionable or fraudulent. Sorry, my fingers disappear when I do that. I'm trying to air quote here. Questionable. And those 2 signatures were both cases of spouses signing for their spouse. Which honestly, those of us who have had a spouse, when have we, I think I've probably signed for my ex at some point. Certainly well after we were divorced, and like on the housing deed and stuff like the bank statements, shutting her out. I'm getting off topic here. But yeah, out of 15,000, 0 examples of actual voter fraud. 15,000.
machines and pay for the elections, and that goes for every single state across the country. We know.
The Slaughter says in a phone call, Trump pressured Georgia's Secretary of State to find new votes and just say he had recalculated. So look, all I want to do is this. I just want to find 11,780 votes, Trump said. Yeah, he called up Brad Raffensperger, the Secretary of State of Georgia, again, apparently either today or yesterday, because he tweeted about it this morning.
That this has really been a stolen election. I've seen the evidence, and that's why I intend to object on January 6th.
So how does that play out? You will object, and then there is...
She's not very smart. This is all by rote. She sounds like Kelly Loeffler.
The 2-hour debate period where you each will get, 5 minutes to make the case? Will you present new evidence? President Trump said there will be new evidence to present, and the campaign says it will present that on Wednesday. Is that part of the 5-minute speeches?
Well, I don't want to reveal our full plan because you never want the enemy to know what you're up to, and we clearly have enemies in this country that want to stop President Trump from being president for 4 more years and serving the American people like he had.
5-minute speeches?
Well, I don't want to reveal our full plan because you never want the enemy to know what you're up to, and we clearly have enemies in this country that want to stop President Trump from being president for 4 more years and serving the American people like he has. You know, what we're going to do on January 6th is we have over 100 members.
You know what she sounds like? She sounds like a female Kevin McCarthy. She drops words all over the place. Who want stop President Trump? No, it's want to stop, and she's not conscious of it. Just look at this face. I mean, regardless of... It's vacant.
Members of Congress, and that is growing. I hear from new members every single day as I've been on the phone working hard trying to get people to join in. Our senators, we have a dozen, but guess what? There's going to be more senators leading in this objection. We will be raising...
I was going to guess that. She didn't let me guess.
In our objections, and we will have sponsors and co-sponsors for each state. Once we do that, the chambers will separate.
You know, there's no sponsors or co-sponsors on an objection. That's not the way. They're just making up that term. There's no. It's a written objection signed by a congressperson. Signed by a member of the House and a senator. There's no sponsors and co-sponsors.
Right? The House will go its way, the Senate will go its way, and then that's where we begin our debates, where each member has 5 minutes on the floor. And, you know, I think it should be a full-on debate because we have to fight this out for the American people, and that's what we have to be doing. We have to make sure we get this right.
Vernon Jones, I want to get...
And they're done. Let's see if they come back. Yeah, they're back. Here we go.
How secure do you believe this Georgia runoff race will be on Tuesday?
Well, let me be clear about something, Maria. I put my country before my party. I'm trying to save our democratic republic.
Oh, Jesus. Breaking news from Michelle here. 1 killed, several injured in church shooting in Winona, Texas. Suspect in custody.
Not our Democratic Party. And so many people feel in this state and across this country that there was not a free, fair, and transparent election. And this is and it should be a very bipartisan issue to make sure that every legal vote is counted and counted properly. And so
that's right.
Yeah, we did that.
Election integrity is important. It is very important that we give trust, or we provide trust to the American people, that they feel like when they go and vote, that they're voting and it's going to be free, and it's going to be fair, it's going to be transparent, and it's going to be accurate, and their expression was made. But what you see as
I don't want my vote to be transparent. I want my vote to be a secret. All Americans should want that.
Happen is the Democratic Party. I'm just appalled the fact that they are not as upset about what has happened. And let me tell you, it's voter suppression for African Americans who feel like their vote was not counted. So that's not a Democratic thing. Republicans, there are blacks who vote.
So you can suppress the vote after the fact?
For this president who feel like their votes had not been counted. And so it's not partisan. We have to fight.
It's nonpartisan. It's not. A lot of the Persians, they're like, hey, you people, you Americans, you take our Statue of Liberty. But there's none of that.
Which is why, Congresswoman, you are going to object. You're talking about 24 hours of debate over 12 hours because you've got 2 hours per state per chamber. Congresswoman, do you believe you can be successful in terms of overturning the election results?
You know, Maria, I believe anything is possible, and I believe...
It's not. Anything is not possible. I'll never be able to fly. That's just the way it is.
We have to fight. You know, the American people that vote for Republicans are fed up with the Republican Party when they lay down and just hand something over. And right now, it is a critical time for every single Republican in the House and in the Senate to stand up and fight right now for this president and for the American people's vote. It's not.
And if every single Republican stands up and fight, Biden still wins. Did I say fight? Hold on, let me do that again. And if every single Republican stands up and fights, Biden still wins.
Not a political party issue. It's an issue of our integrity of our elections.
It's absolutely a political party issue. It's 100% a political party issue.
Okay, it is a monumental week. We so appreciate you joining us. Congresswoman-elect Marjorie Taylor Greene, Georgia State Representative Vernon.
No, I don't want my vote to be transparent. I don't want anybody knowing that it's my vote. That's what I'm saying. We have secret votes here in the United States. It is. It's all over. Speaking of being over, the live stream is over. I got a bunch of stuff to get done. I want to do some Shut the Facts Up today as well. Too much happening today. I don't know. Guys, think about it. Did anybody figure out a way to affect the Georgia election? I mean, I've got it all rigged anyway. But it's just fun to watch the Republicans try and manipulate the results by voting. They think they can vote and have their candidate win. Oh, Republicans are so adorable. Okay, everybody. Chris Wilson says you'll never be able to fly, and waiters will never be sure whether to address her as sir or ma'am. Yeah, nah, that's not. I mean, it's obviously she's trying to be a female. She's got the long hair and everything. You're very welcome, everybody. Everybody have a great day. This will probably be my last broadcast because I'm sure somebody will be picketing outside my house later this morning. Cutting my inner line. I don't know. I don't know what happens from there. We don't know. Anything is possible. Anything is possible. That's what you have to believe if you're an American and delusional. And you think that 75 is more than 81. By the way, I think it ended up being about 74 or 2, something like that. It's really 74, but they're going to bump it up. Might as well round it out to the nearest 100 million. Picking it because no, I'm a white male. No matter what I say, I'm doing something wrong. Guarantee it. So yeah, that'll be the end of that. Antifa will probably come attack me with tuna cans, which is awesome because I've got some relish and I've got some mayonnaise. Bring it on, Antifa. Guys, have a great day. Maybe we'll talk later today. I don't know. Maybe I'll broadcast when I'm editing together my Shut the Fact Up. I don't know. We'll see what the day holds. For now, I got to go get some exercise because I just ate that big egg and ham and cheese and this whole weight loss thing for the new year, not happening so far. People be good to each other. Here's some credits for you. Hold on. We're coming back. Green Room Bar just sent me a tweet saying that the Post actually has a recording of Trump berating Rafflesberger. That's the Secretary of State of hour-long call. It's an hour-long call. Hold on. Let's see if there's an actual record. Oh, we're playing this. Guys, don't go anywhere. I know some of you have already signed off. Let's do this. This is recording of Trump's conversation with Secretary of State of Georgia, Rafflesberger. I don't know how long this is. Green Room Bar just sent this to me, so this is breaking news to you and to me and anybody else who's watching. 4 minutes long.
We have won this election in Georgia based on all of this. And there's nothing wrong with saying that, Brad. You know, I mean, having a correct, the people of Georgia are angry. And these numbers are going to be repeated on Monday night, along with others that we're going to have by that time, which are much more substantial even. And the people of Georgia are angry. The people of the country are angry. And there's nothing wrong with saying that, you know, that you've recalculated.
Well, Mr. President, the challenge that you have is the data you have is wrong.
Now, do you think it's possible that they shredded ballots in Fulton County? Because that's what the rumor is. And also that Dominion took out machines. That Dominion is really moving fast to get rid of their machinery. Do you know anything about that? Because that's illegal.
This is Ryan, Germany. No, Dominion has not moved any machinery out of Fulton County. We're having.
Well, but have they moved? Have they moved the inner parts of the machines and replaced them with other parts?
No.
You sure, Ryan?
I'm sure.
Oh my God. Oh my God. He's a fucking moron and he's desperate. I'm sorry, but if you ever thought that Trump was playing three-dimensional chess right now, wow. This is two-dimensional checkers with two bottle caps and a shoelace inexplicably named Cletus.
You should want to have an accurate election. And you're a Republican.
We believe that we do have an accurate election.
No, you don't. No, you don't. You don't have. Not even close. You're off by hundreds of thousands of votes. You know what they did, and you're not reporting it. That's a criminal offense, and you can't let that happen. That's a big risk to you and to Ryan, your lawyer. That's a big risk. But They are shredding ballots, in my opinion, based on what I've heard, and they are removing machinery, and they're moving it as fast as they can.
So he's talking to the people, asking them, are they moving the machinery? Which is a rumor. He admits it's a rumor. No, they're not doing that. Are they moving the parts? No, they're not doing that. Well, they're moving the machinery. There's no reality with this man. He's an absolute moron.
Both of which are criminal fines, and you can't let it happen, and you are letting it happen. I'm notifying you that you're letting it happen. So, look, all I want to do is this. I just want to find...
this is WAPO, yeah.
11,780 votes, which is one more than we have, because we won the state. Wow. So tell me, Brad, what are we going to do? We won the election, and it's not fair to take it away from us like this. And it's going to be very costly in many ways. And I think you have to say that you're going to re-examine it, and you can re-examine it, but re-examine it with people that want to find answers, not people that don't want to find answers. For instance, I'm hearing Ryan, and he's probably, I'm sure, a great lawyer and everything, but he's making statements about those ballots that he doesn't know. But he's making them with he did make them with surety, but now I think he's less sure, because the answer is they all went to Biden. And that alone wins us the election by a lot.
Wow.
So.
Mr. President.
And he made it with surety. And that alone wins the election by a lot. You
have people that submit information, and we have our people that submit information, and then it comes before the court, and the court then has to make a determination. We have to stand by our numbers. We believe our numbers are right.
Well, under law, you're not allowed to give faulty election results, okay? You're not allowed to do that, and that's what you've done. This is a faulty election result. And honestly, this should go very fast. You should meet tomorrow, because you have a big election coming up, And because of what you've done to the president, you know, the people of Georgia know that this was a scam. And because of what you've done to the president, a lot of people aren't going out to vote. And a lot of Republicans are going to vote negative because they hate what you did to the president. Okay? They hate it. And they're going to vote. And if you would be respected, really respected, if this thing could be straightened out before the election. You have a big election coming up on Tuesday.
Wow. Wow. Let's see if they're going to release the whole call. Let's see. They obtained...
People wonder about the peaceful transfer.
Shut up. They obtained it. They don't say where they obtained it so far. They may later in the article. Then they just quote the article. So we might actually hear the entire hour at some point. If we do, you bet we'll do a live stream. Maybe we'll come back later and we'll live stream on that as well. But wow, that's just pathetic. Donald Trump is a pathetic human being. And if that call doesn't prove it, nothing will. You're just denying reality. I know, it's an objective opinion. I'm certifying it as an objective opinion. And you can take that to court in front of a jury. My opinion is objective. Come on, guys. That's just ridiculous. Let's see. This Post put this out. It must have just broken because I hadn't seen it already. And because, let's see, 9:59 a.m. Pacific time, which is about a half hour ago this came out. Just absolutely ridiculous. Okay, kiddos, I do have to get going now. Now I'm late. So thanks a lot. No more credits. I'm just going to cut off the feed. Bye, everybody. You go sleeps.